Long ago, in a small village surrounded by thick forests and winding rivers, there lived a man named Victor. He was tall, strong, and well known for his hard work. Victor had a heart full of love, especially for his beautiful wife, Grace. Their love was like the morning sun, bright, warm, and full of hope. What happens when love faces a tragic twist? Stay tuned to Innocent Stories to uncover the shocking truth. When Grace became pregnant, Victor was overjoyed. He sang songs, danced under the moonlight, and promised to love his wife and their unborn child forever. But life has its twists. Grace died while giving birth to their daughter, Amanda. Her death broke Victor's heart into pieces, but when he looked into Amanda's tiny eyes, filled with innocence and warmth, he found a reason to live again. Amanda became his world, his sunshine after the storm. 6 months after Grace's death, Victor did something unexpected. He got married again. His friends and family whispered behind his back. One day, his closest friend, Daniel, asked, "Victor, why so soon? Grace's grave is still fresh." Victor sighed deeply and replied, "Amanda needs a mother. I cannot raise her alone. She is just a baby. She needs the warmth of a woman's care." And so, Patricia came into Victor's life. She was beautiful on the outside, with smooth dark skin and sharp eyes that sparkled like river stones. But beauty can be deceiving. Can you guess what dark secrets Patricia hides? Keep watching Innocent Stories to find out. The moment Patricia stepped into Victor's house, things began to change. At first, she pretended to love Amanda, but soon her true colors showed. "This baby cries too much," she would complain, frowning and covering her ears. "Can't you keep her quiet? I didn't marry you to become a nurse." Victor, blinded by love and fear of raising Amanda alone, ignored Patricia's harsh words. He believed that Patricia would eventually grow to love Amanda, but he was wrong. One hot afternoon, Patricia told Victor, "Let's go to the river. The fresh air will be good for Amanda." Victor agreed, carrying little Amanda, who giggled softly, unaware of the dark heart that watched her. They reached the river, its water sparkling under the sun, dancing like silver snakes. The cool breeze whispered secrets through the trees. While Victor sat under a tree, holding Amanda close, Patricia pretended to smile, but inside, her heart was filled with bitterness. She wanted Amanda gone. To her, Amanda was a burden, a constant reminder of Grace. Suddenly, Patricia stood up and stretched. "Victor," she said sweetly, "I need some herbs from the bush. Please fetch some for me. I will watch Amanda." Victor, trusting his wife, nodded and disappeared into the thick bushes, his footsteps fading into the distance. Patricia's smile vanished. She looked at Amanda, who was playing with her tiny fingers, innocent and full of life. Without a second thought, Patricia picked up the baby, walked to the edge of the river, and with a heart as cold as stone, threw Amanda into the deep, rushing water. The baby's faint cry mixed with the river's roar, and then silence. Patricia quickly sat down, rubbed dirt on her face, and tore her wrapper to make it look like she had struggled. She began to cry loudly, wailing as if her heart was broken. Victor rushed back, herbs in hand, panic written all over his face. "What happened?" he shouted. Patricia sobbed, the river took Amanda. She slipped from my hands. I tried to save her, but the water was too strong." Victor dropped to his knees, his heart shattering again. He stared at the wild river, his mind refusing to believe what had happened. Tears streamed down his face. He blamed himself. "If only I hadn't left. If only," but the river knows the truth. The trees witness the crime, and sometimes, the spirits of the innocent do not stay silent. Days passed. Victor couldn't eat or sleep. The house felt emptier than ever. Patricia pretended to comfort him, but guilt has a way of creeping into the soul like a shadow that never leaves. Then, strange things began to happen. At night, Patricia would hear a baby crying softly. She would wake up sweating, searching for the sound, but there was no baby, just silence until the next night. One evening, as the moon hung low and full, Victor sat alone under the tree near the river, tears in his eyes. Suddenly, he heard it, a faint cry, like Amanda's. He stood up, his heart racing. The cry grew louder, pulling him towards the riverbank. There, floating on the water, was Amanda's small bracelet, the one Grace had made for her before she died. Victor picked it up, holding it tightly, his mind racing, his fingers trembling, the metal digging into his palm as if trying to whisper the truth. He refused to hear the faint cry he'd heard by the river. It still echoed in his mind, stirring something deep inside, a nagging doubt, a flicker of fear. Victor walked home from the river, Amanda's tiny bracelet clenched tightly in his hand. The cool light breeze brushed against his face, but it didn't cool the storm brewing in his heart. His mind raced with questions, but Patricia's sweet voice from the past kept echoing, "She slipped from my hands. The river took her." When he entered the house, Patricia was sitting by the fire, pretending to mend his torn shirt. She looked up with a forced smile, but Victor's face was dark with suspicion. Without greeting her, he threw the bracelet onto the table. "I found this by the river," he said, his voice low and trembling. Patricia glanced at the bracelet, then back at Victor, her face tightening for a split second before she forced a laugh. "And so? Is Amanda the only child in this village who had a bracelet?" she snapped. "Victor, stop overthinking. You are letting grief make you foolish." Victor's heart twisted at her words. Foolish? Maybe he was overthinking. He rubbed his temples, trying to push away the doubts creeping into his mind. Patricia continued, "If you keep behaving like this, you'll go mad. Let Amanda rest in peace." But that night, Victor couldn't sleep. The bracelet felt like it was burning a hole in his soul. The next morning, as the sun painted the sky orange, Daniel stormed into Victor's compound, his face dark with anger. He didn't bother to greet Patricia, who was sweeping lazily by the doorway. "Victor," Daniel shouted, "how could you be so blind? How could you believe Patricia's lies? Do you think the river just took Amanda like that? A 6-month-old baby in broad daylight?" Victor's face turned red with rage. He stood up so quickly, his chair crashed to the floor. "Get out of my house, Daniel," he shouted. "You're jealous because my wife is more beautiful than yours. That's why you keep filling my head with nonsense." Daniel became very angry. "Jealous? You're a fool, Victor. A blind fool." Victor didn't wait to hear more. He charged at Daniel, grabbing him by the collar. They wrestled like wild animals, fists flying, rolling on the dusty ground. Neighbors gathered, shouting, trying to pull them apart, but Victor's rage was uncontrollable. "You will never step into my house again," Victor said. "Stay away from me and my family." Daniel stood up, dusting himself off, his face bruised but his spirit unbroken. He pointed a trembling finger at Patricia, who stood at the doorway, arms crossed with a sly grin hidden behind her cold eyes. "One day, Victor," Daniel hissed, "the truth will hit you harder than my fists ever could. And when it does, I won't be here to catch you." With that, Daniel turned and walked away, leaving Victor panting with anger, his heart pounding like a drum. That night, the baby's cries returned, soft, distant, haunting. Patricia woke up sweating, her eyes darting around the dark room. She shook Victor, her voice trembling. "Did you hear that?" Victor turned to her, his face blank. "I didn't hear anything," he replied coldly, turning back to face the wall. 5 years passed, and the shadow of Amanda's loss still lingered like an invisible spirit in Victor's home. The once strong man now carried sadness in his eyes, though he buried it beneath layers of hard work. Life moved on, but something inside him remained broken, a crack that no time could fully mend. Patricia, on the other hand, had grown restless. Despite all her efforts, she had not conceived a child. Year after year passed with no sign of a baby. Each month, she hoped, only to be met with disappointment. Her heart grew heavy with fear, not because she longed to be a mother, but because she was afraid Victor might marry another woman. One evening, Patricia sat by the fire, tears rolling down her face. Her sobs echoed through the small house, pulling Victor from his thoughts. He walked over, his face concerned. "Patricia, why are you crying?" he asked gently. She wiped her face quickly, as if ashamed to be caught in her weakness. "Victor, I'm scared. I'm scared you will leave me because I cannot give you a child." What if you find another woman, someone younger, someone who can bear you children? Victor took her hands in his face softening. I will never leave you, Patricia, he promised. You are my wife, children or no children. I will stand by you. His words seemed to soothe her for the moment, but deep inside, Patricia knew that promises are like leaves, they can be carried away by the wind when the storms come. One hot afternoon, the sun blazed fiercely in the sky, and the village buzzed with the usual sounds of life, children laughing, women pounding yams, and birds singing their endless songs. Patricia, lying lazily under the shade, complained of weakness. Victor, she groaned dramatically, I am too weak to fetch water today. Please go to the river for me. Victor didn't argue. He picked up his calabash and began the long walk to the river, his footsteps crunching against the dry earth. The path was familiar, but today felt different. The air was thick with something unspoken, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. When he reached the riverbank, Victor bent down to fill his calabash. The cool water reflected his tired face. But just as he was about to rise, he heard a soft voice behind him. Sir, please, can you help me? Victor turned sharply. Standing a few feet away was a little girl, no older than 5. Her hair was curly and wild, her clothes tattered, and her big brown eyes held a sadness that tugged at his heart. Who are you? Victor asked, standing slowly. The girl looked down, her small fingers twisting nervously. I don't know, she whispered. I don't remember my name, my village, or my parents. I am lost. Victor's heart clenched. How could a child so young be alone in the wild? He looked around, half expecting someone to come running after her, but the riverbank was empty. The only sounds were the whispers of the water and the distant calls of birds. He knelt down, looking into her frightened eyes. You don't remember anything? The girl shook her head, tears welling up. Victor sighed deeply, his heart aching. He thought of Amanda, her tiny hands, her soft giggles, her innocent face. His chest felt heavy, as if the river itself had settled inside him. I can't leave you here, he said gently. Come with me. I'll take care of you. The girl nodded, her little hand slipping into his as if it had always belonged there. Victor carried the calabash in one hand and held the girl's tiny fingers in the other as they walked back home. When Patricia saw them approaching, her face twisted with confusion and then something darker, jealousy. She forced a smile as Victor entered. Who is this? She asked, her voice overly sweet. Victor explained what had happened, how he found the girl alone by the river. She doesn't remember anything, not even her name. I couldn't leave her there to die. Patricia's smile faded, replaced by a tight frown, but she said nothing more. That night, Victor gave the girl a small mat to sleep on near the fire. She curled up quietly, her breathing soft and even. As Victor watched her sleep, something stirred deep within him. He didn't understand it, but it felt like a missing piece had returned. Patricia, lying beside him, stared into the dark, her mind racing. She didn't like the girl's presence. There was something about her, those eyes, that face, that made Patricia uneasy. Days turned into weeks, and the girl became a part of their home. She was quiet but observant, her big eyes always watching, as if searching for something familiar. Victor grew fond of her, treating her like his own. He even gave her a name, Hope, because she had brought light into his dark heart. The days turned into weeks, and little Hope grew into Victor's heart like the roots of a strong tree. She was different from other children in the village. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her words carried a strange wisdom far beyond her years. Her big brown eyes seemed to hold secrets, deep like the river where Victor had found her. Victor found peace in her presence. The weight in his heart felt lighter each day, though his crops still struggled, and his farm refused to yield as it once did. Having Hope around filled a hole in his soul he never thought could heal. One evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky with orange and purple streaks. Victor sat outside on an old wooden stool, mending a broken farming tool. Hope sat beside him. Suddenly, she turned to him and said softly, "Daddy, I don't want you to call me Hope anymore." Victor paused, his hands freezing mid-motion. He looked at her, confused. "Why, my dear?" Don't you like the name? The little girl shook her head slowly. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, Victor felt like he was staring into a familiar place, like the reflection of a memory long buried. "Call me Amanda," she whispered. The tool dropped from Victor's hands, clattering to the ground. His heart raced, a chill ran down his spine as he stared at her, his mouth dry. "What did you say?" "Call me Amanda," she repeated calmly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Victor's breath grew heavy, his mind swirled with thoughts. He blinked hard, trying to shake the strange feeling creeping over him. "Amanda was my daughter's name," he said quietly. "My baby. She was taken by the river when she was just 6 months old." His eyes grew distant as memories flooded back, the sound of Amanda's tiny giggles, the warmth of holding her, and the cold emptiness when she was gone. "I know everything that happened," she replied, her voice calm like the still waters of the river before a storm. "I know about the day you went to fetch herbs. I know how Patricia told you the river took me. I know about Daniel and the bracelet." Victor's eyes widened, his heart thumped wildly against his chest. He pulled his hand away slowly, his body trembling. How do you know these things?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Amanda placed her small hand on his chest, right over his heart. "Don't worry, Daddy. Now that you have me, I've brought you blessings. You will see. Your crops will grow fast. You will be rich soon. The darkness that has been following you will disappear." Victor couldn't speak. His throat was dry, and his heart raced like a drumbeat in the middle of a festival. The girl's words echoed in his mind over and over. That night, Victor didn't sleep. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames, his thoughts tangled like a fisherman's net. Could this really be Amanda? How could it be? The next day, something strange happened. When Victor went to his farm, the dry, withered crops that had refused to grow for years were now standing tall, green, and healthy. The ground that had once been cracked and barren was soft and rich with life. He touched the leaves with trembling hands, disbelief written all over his face. It was like magic. No, it was magic. Victor ran back home, his heart pounding with both fear and hope. He burst through the door, breathless, and found Hope sitting quietly, humming softly, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "It's true," he gasped, his voice shaking. "The crops, they're growing." Hope smiled, her eyes twinkling like the stars. "I told you, Daddy. I brought you blessings." Victor fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He held her tightly, his heart full of love and confusion. The next day, Victor decided to tell Patricia what had been on his mind. He sat quietly for a while, thinking about how to bring it up. Finally, he looked at Patricia and said, "Patricia, I need to tell you something." Patricia, busy with her chores, replied sharply, "What is it now?" Victor cleared his throat and said, "Hope has changed her name. She said she doesn't want to be called Hope anymore. She wants to be called Amanda." The moment Patricia heard those words, she stopped in her tracks, her face twisted with anger, and her voice rose like thunder. "That little brat," she shouted, her eyes wide with fury. "I told you, Victor, I told you that girl was sent to destroy this marriage." She suddenly burst into tears, crying loudly, as if her heart was breaking. "Oh, my beautiful baby Amanda. I miss you so much. How could that girl call herself my daughter's name? How could she mock my pain like this?" Patricia cried and wailed, her voice filling the house. Then she stood up, wiped her tears, and said with bitterness, "Victor, we must chase her away. I don't want her in this house. I can't stand the sight of her." Victor shook his head firmly. "No, I can't do that. She is my daughter now. Until I find her real parents, I won't send her away." Patricia's face turned red with anger. "If you refuse to chase her away, then I will leave this house. I won't live under the same roof with that cursed child." Victor looked her straight in the eyes and said calmly, "You are free to go, Patricia. After all, you have no child for me. What use is your staying here?" Patricia was shocked, her mouth fell open, and tears filled her eyes again. "So you choose a total stranger over me," she cried. After everything I've done for you, after all these years of being your wife? Victor remained silent, his silence speaking louder than words. Patricia cried harder, hoping Victor would change his mind, but he didn't. After a while, she wiped her tears, stood up straight, and said with a cold, bitter voice, I will not leave my marriage because of that little witch. She added, since you won't send her away, I will make this house so uncomfortable for her that she will beg to leave. Victor replied sharply, don't you dare. If you try anything funny, I will make sure you regret ever knowing me. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Patricia standing there, fuming with anger. Victor went to Amanda, who was sitting quietly in the small room. He sat beside her and said softly, Amanda, I want you to know that I've got your back. No matter what happens, I am here for you. Amanda looked at him with calm, steady eyes and smiled. Don't worry, Daddy, she said softly. I can deal with her. Victor was shocked. His heart skipped a beat. How could a 5-year-old say something like that? He wondered. Her voice was filled with confidence, calm, and a strange power that didn't fit a child her age. The house grew tense in the days that followed. Patricia kept her promise. She made the house feel like a battlefield. She refused to cook when Amanda was around, poured dirty water where Amanda sat, and shouted insults whenever she walked past. But Amanda never cried. She never complained. She moved around the house with quiet strength, as if nothing Patricia did could touch her. One day, Patricia shouted, This is my house. You don't belong here. Amanda looked at her calmly and said, This was my house before you came. Patricia froze, her heart raced. She didn't understand what Amanda meant, but fear crept into her heart like a shadow. That night, strange things began to happen. Patricia heard whispers in the dark, soft cries of a baby that no one else seemed to hear. She felt cold chills, even when the fire was burning bright. Victor slept peacefully, but Patricia tossed and turned, haunted by the fear that Amanda was more than just a lost little girl. The next day, Victor woke up with a heavy heart. The words Amanda had spoken and the tension in his home weighed on his mind like a stone. He knew there was only one person he could talk to, his old friend Daniel, the same Daniel he had insulted and pushed away years ago when he blindly defended Patricia. Victor's footsteps felt heavy as he walked down the dusty path toward Daniel's house. The memories of their last fight echoed in his mind, how he had shouted at Daniel, accusing him of jealousy, and told him never to come to his house again. When he arrived, Daniel was sitting under a large mango tree, sharpening his machete. His face was calm, but the moment he saw Victor approaching, his smile disappeared. Victor stood there for a moment, his pride battling with his guilt. Then he took a deep breath and said, Daniel, I'm so sorry. Daniel didn't say anything. He continued sharpening his machete, pretending not to hear. Victor stepped closer. I was wrong, Daniel. I was blinded. I believed lies, and I pushed away the one friend who truly cared about me. Please forgive me. Daniel finally looked up, his eyes cold. Forgive you? After you called me jealous and told me to never come near your house again? What do you want from me now, Victor? Victor's heart sank, but he didn't give up. I know I hurt you, and I regret every word I said. I thought I was protecting my family, but I see now that I was a fool. Patricia isn't the woman I thought she was. Daniel's expression softened just a little, though he still said nothing. Victor continued, his voice filled with emotion, I need my friend back. I miss you, Daniel. I thought I'd lost you forever, but I'm here to make things right. Daniel sighed deeply, then stood up and faced Victor. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Daniel dropped his machete to the ground and said with a small smile, You're lucky I'm a forgiving man. Victor's face lit up with relief. Thank you, Daniel. I thought you'd never forgive me. Daniel chuckled and slapped Victor on the back. Don't get too excited. I'm still angry, but I've missed you too, you stubborn fool. They both laughed, the tension melting away like morning dew under the sun. Victor then sat down beside Daniel and told him everything, how Patricia had changed, how cruel she had been to Amanda, and how he had finally seen the truth. He explained how he found hope by the river, how she later wanted to be called Amanda, and the strange things that had been happening since. Daniel listened carefully, his face filled with surprise. When Victor finished, Daniel leaned back and said, "Wait, Amanda? I thought Hope was your relative staying with you and Patricia." Victor shook his head. "No, she's not my relative, but she is my daughter now. I can't explain it, Daniel, but I feel it in my heart. She's more than just a lost child. She's part of me." Daniel scratched his head, confused and surprised. After a long pause, he said, "Welcome back to your senses, man. It took you long enough." Victor laughed, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. "I thought I lost you, Daniel. I thought you'd never forgive me." "Thanks, brother. I love you, bro." Daniel smiled and replied jokingly, "Please, don't love me. Keep that love for your miserable, foolish wife." They both burst into laughter, their friendship stronger than ever. Meanwhile, back at home, Patricia was pacing around the house, her heart filled with anger. She couldn't stop thinking about Victor's words, how he had chosen Amanda over her. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Finally, she stormed into Amanda's small room, her face twisted with rage. She stood at the doorway and shouted, "You, Hope, come here right now." But before Patricia could say another word, Amanda looked up calmly and said with a firm voice, "Point of correction, woman. My name is not Hope. My name is Amanda. Don't you dare change that, okay, you evil woman?" Patricia froze, her mouth slightly open. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. How dare a little girl speak to her like that? Patricia's face turned red with fury. "I know they sent you to destroy my home, but you will never succeed," she shouted. "I will make sure you regret ever stepping into my house." Amanda stood up slowly, her eyes dark and piercing, filled with something that didn't belong to a child. She stared at Patricia and said coldly, "You will do nothing, you foolish woman. Stay away from me, or you will not live to see the day." Patricia's heart skipped a beat. She took a step back, her body trembling slightly. What kind of child talks like this? She thought. She had never felt fear like this before, but Amanda's words sent a cold shiver down her spine. Without another word, Patricia stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. She knew something was wrong with that child, something beyond her understanding. Patricia didn't waste time. She grabbed her wrapper, tied it tightly around her waist, and rushed to the house of a well-known herbalist in the neighboring village. The herbalist was an old man with gray hair and sharp, knowing eyes. People said he could see things others couldn't. When Patricia arrived, she wasted no time with greetings. "Baba, I need your help," she said breathlessly. The herbalist looked at her and nodded slowly. "Sit down and tell me what troubles your heart." Patricia sat and told him everything, how Amanda came into their lives, the strange things she said, and how Victor was now blinded by her presence. She didn't leave out a single detail. The herbalist listened quietly, his face serious. When Patricia finished, he remained silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "Woman, you are dealing with a spirit that is very powerful. Amanda is not an ordinary child. There is something special about her, something beyond our understanding." Patricia's eyes widened with fear. "What do you mean, Baba? Is she a witch? A curse sent to destroy my marriage?" The herbalist shook his head. "I cannot say exactly what she is, but I know this: her spirit is strong, and her presence in your house is not by accident. She has a purpose, but I cannot see it clearly yet. You must be careful, very careful." Patricia's face twisted with anger. "Careful? No, I will not sit and wait to be destroyed. I don't care how powerful she is. I will do anything to make sure she suffers or doesn't live to see another day." The herbalist's eyes narrowed. "Be careful with your words, woman. Some spirits do not forgive. If you try to harm her, you may be the one who suffers." But Patricia didn't care. She stood up, her heart filled with rage and determination. "I am not afraid. I will make sure she regrets ever stepping into my house." With that, she stormed out of the herbalist's hut, her mind burning with wicked plans. As she walked back home, the sky grew darker, though it was only late afternoon. The wind blew strangely, whispering through the trees, as if the spirits themselves were watching. But Patricia didn't notice. She was too busy thinking about how to get rid of Amanda. She had no idea that Amanda already knew what was in her heart. Meanwhile, back at Daniel's house, Victor was still there. They both sat under the shade of the big mango tree, the afternoon sun casting long shadows on the dusty ground. Daniel, deep in thought, broke the silence. "Victor, you just told me that Hope said you should call her Amanda. Don't you think something is wrong somewhere? I don't think that girl is ordinary." Victor sighed, rubbing his hands together nervously. "I've been thinking the same thing, Daniel. But what do you think I should do?" Daniel leaned forward, his face serious. "We need answers, my friend. Let's go and see the spiritualist. Maybe she can help us understand what's going on." Without wasting time, they stood up and began the long walk to the spiritualist's hut. The path was narrow, surrounded by tall trees that whispered with the wind. When they arrived, the spiritualist, an old woman with wise eyes and beads around her neck, was sitting quietly, as if she had been expecting them. Victor greeted her and explained everything, how he found Amanda, the strange things she said, and Patricia's behavior. The woman listened without interrupting, nodding slowly. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "You seek the truth about Amanda, and the river holds your answers. You must go to the river and call upon the goddess of the river. She will tell you who Amanda really is." Victor's heart pounded. "How do I call her?" he asked. The spiritualist replied, "You must go alone, Victor. Take a white cloth with you as an offering. When you reach the river, stand by the water's edge, call her name 3 times, and present the offering. She will appear." Victor and Daniel thanked the spiritualist and left. The journey back felt longer, Victor's mind heavy with thoughts. The next morning, Victor woke up early. He found a white cloth, tied it carefully, and set out for the river alone. The path was quiet, the trees standing tall like silent witnesses. The sound of the flowing river grew louder as he approached. When he reached the riverbank, he stood still for a moment, the water sparkling under the morning sun. He placed the white cloth on the ground, lifted his hands, and called out, "Goddess of the river," 3 times. The wind grew stronger, and the water began to ripple, as if answering his call. Suddenly, the river parted slightly, and from the middle of the water, a beautiful woman rose. Her body shimmered like the water itself, her hair flowed like waves, and her eyes held the depth of the ocean. She was the goddess of the river. Victor fell to his knees, trembling. "Great goddess, I am here to ask about Amanda. I need to know who she really is." The goddess looked at him with calm, powerful eyes, her voice soft yet filled with authority. "Amanda is indeed your daughter," she said. Victor's heart raced. "But how?" "Patricia told me the river took her." The goddess's face grew stern. "Patricia lied to you. She is wicked and full of evil. Years ago, Patricia threw her into this river with her own hands. She wanted to get rid of her because she hated her. When you returned that day, she pretended to cry and told you the river had taken Amanda." Victor's heart shattered, tears filled his eyes, and he shook his head in disbelief. No, how could I have been so blind?" The goddess continued, "But I saved Amanda. I rescued her from the water and raised her in my care. When she turned 5, I sent her back to you because I knew your heart was empty, and you needed your daughter. She was meant to be with you." Victor couldn't hold back his tears. He cried like a child, his chest heavy with guilt. "I'm so sorry, Amanda. I'm so sorry I didn't know." The goddess looked at him with kindness. "Now, it is not your fault, Victor. Love can blind even the wisest hearts. But listen carefully, Patricia's womb has been blocked by me. She will never have children because of her wickedness. She doesn't deserve the gift of motherhood." Victor cried harder, blaming himself. "I should have seen it. I should have known she was evil. I failed my daughter." The goddess gently spoke, "But Amanda is strong. She has a purpose greater than you can imagine. Go back to her. Protect her. She is more than just your daughter. She is a blessing. Victor wiped his tears, stood up slowly, and bowed deeply. Thank you, great goddess. With that, the goddess disappeared into the water, and the river grew calm again. Victor picked up the empty basket he had carried, his heart heavy yet filled with a new sense of purpose. Back at home, Amanda sat quietly, her heart burning with anger and determination. She knew it was time for the truth to come out. She stood up and walked into the main room, where Patricia was pacing angrily, muttering under her breath. Patricia, Amanda called out, her voice calm but firm. Patricia turned sharply, her face twisted with hatred. What do you want now, you cursed child? Amanda stepped closer, her eyes filled with fire. I want you to confess your sins. Tell the truth about what you did to me. Stop hiding behind your lies. Patricia laughed loudly, her voice dripping with venom. How dare you, you little motherless child? Who do you think you are to speak to me like that? Those words struck Amanda deep in her heart, but instead of making her cry, they fueled her rage. She clenched her fists and shouted, "Don't you ever insult my mother again!" With a burst of anger, Amanda raised her hand and struck Patricia across the face. But this was no ordinary slap. The moment Amanda's hand touched Patricia, something strange happened. Patricia's eyes widened in shock. She grabbed her head, screaming at the top of her lungs. No, what's happening to me? She started pulling at her hair, tearing her clothes, and stumbling around the room like a mad woman. Then, without warning, she ran out of the house, barefoot and screaming, her voice echoing through the village. Villagers stopped in their tracks, watching as Patricia ran through the streets like someone possessed. Some whispered, "What's wrong with her?" Others watched in fear, too shocked to speak. As Patricia ran wildly, she suddenly saw Victor walking back from the river, his heart heavy with the truth the river goddess had told him. But nothing prepared him for the sight of Patricia running toward him like a crazed woman. She fell to her knees in front of him, crying and wailing. "Victor, please forgive me," she screamed. "I did it. I threw Amanda into the river. I lied to you. I said the river took her, but it was me. I hated her because she reminded me of your first wife. I'm sorry, forgive me." Victor stood still, his face filled with shock. The words hit him like thunder, the goddess had spoken the truth. Patricia crawled closer, grabbing his feet, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, Victor, forgive me. I was jealous. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Forgive me." Victor looked down at her, his heart heavy with anger and pain. Without saying a word, he pulled his feet away, turned around, and walked away, leaving her crying and screaming in the dust. But Patricia's madness grew worse. She tore at her clothes, screaming at the sky, then ran wildly into the forest, her screams fading into the distance, swallowed by the trees. No one saw her again. When Victor reached home, he found Amanda waiting at the doorway. The moment he saw her, his heart broke with guilt and love. He rushed to her, knelt down, and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. "My daughter," Victor whispered, his voice shaking. "I'm so sorry. I promise I will never leave you again. I will protect you with my life." Amanda smiled gently and hugged him back. "Daddy, don't worry. I will always protect you too." And in that embrace, all the pain, all the lies, and all the tears faded away, because love had won. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button for innocent stories. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.